Blue Lock characters all possess unique weapons and playstyles specific to each character, but what is each player truly able to do with the weapons in their arsenal? For this video, I'm going to be covering every single player's arsenal that I've already covered in Blue Lock. Now, I'd like to apologize because this video is only being made due to me currently going on vacation with the family for the weekend because it's now spring break, so I'm off college, so I don't have as much time to actually edit my videos as I usually would because, you know, on vacation. So in the spirit of still providing you guys with some kind of content, I've decided to combine every single arsenal video that I've posted before into one single video for you guys to watch, so you guys can kind of just binge them, I guess. Now, I'm going to be including the timestamps for each of the players I'll be covering in the description of this video, so if you want to go to a specific person, you can go to the description, click it, and, you know, go to that video. Also, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who has subscribed because as of right now, we are only 2 subs away from reaching 2,000 subscribers. We hit 1,000 subscribers at the beginning of December after almost 1 year of content creation, but now after only 3 months, we've gone and doubled that. I'm so grateful, and again, I want to say thank you. Now, because this video is a long one, I'm going to be leaving the question of the video here at the beginning. So for the question of the video, what kind of videos would you guys like to have me make next? I have a ton of Arsenal videos, matchup videos, alternative stratum videos, and a brand new series I'm going to be making on this channel. So if you guys have any new ideas that aren't, you know, including those, leave me your thoughts down below. And before we jump into this video, spoilers for the latest chapters of the BLUELOCK manga, and if you are not caught up to the latest chapters as of now, be warned because there will be spoilers. But alright, let's get into the video. Now to start, I think we should be discussing Yoichi Isagi's style of play, being the Raumdeuter. The Raumdeuter, or the Space Investigator, is a playstyle that thrives on empty but dangerous spaces on the pitch. This type of player locates dangerous areas of the pitch and uses unoccupied space to create confusion among the opposing backline. Isagi creates ideal plays and chance opportunities by using his spatial awareness to view the field as a whole and the players on it. With his understanding of all of the players, he uses his off-the-ball movements to occupy empty spaces or create dangerous ones to form ideal plays for his teammates, chance opportunities using his teammates, and to score high-level goals for himself. Mixed with his reflexes and enhanced vision, Isagi is able to create plays only possible for himself. But now that we've covered his playstyle, let's start with his main weapon. Isagi's first understood weapon is his spatial awareness, which he unlocked in chapter 7 of the manga or episode 3 of the anime. Spatial awareness allows for Isagi to instinctually analyze the entire field, giving him a vast understanding of the game, including his opponents' and teammates' weapons. Based on this understanding, Isagi can make accurate predictions as to the flow of the game. These premonitions then allow him to envision an ideal play mid-game and execute it efficiently even when faced with strong opposition and an unpredictable field. Isagi's next core weapon is direct shooting, which he unlocked in chapter 37 of the manga or episode 11 of the anime. Direct shooting allows for Isagi to make a strong connection on the ball without the need for it to lose speed or get controlled. In doing so, Isagi avoids having to overthink about his positioning or next move, and he can just score a clean shot with no interference. This also allows for him to shoot against players who have better prediction skills or simply overall better physical specs, as direct shooting allows for him to score goals without letting himself slow down. Another core weapon is off-the-ball movements, which he unlocked in chapter 54 of the manga or episode 15 of the anime. Off-the-ball movements relates to any movement done by a player who is currently not in possession of the ball. This skill allows for Isagi to use his spatial awareness to identify the blind spot of his opponent, then slip into it before changing direction, causing them to get thrown off balance and for him to pass them. This not only allows for him to position himself in a place where he can deceive the opposition and be a decoy for his teammates' shots, but also position himself close enough to a teammate to pull off super close back-to-back passing plays that can break through an enemy's defense. Isagi's final but most arguably best core skill is emulation, which he also learned in chapter 54 of the manga or episode 15 of the anime. Emulation allows for Isagi to break down a player's weapon, devour it, and then incorporate it into his current playstyle. Now, this emulation cannot simply just copy a weapon like Reo, it does have limitations. It can't emulate a weapon that his body is currently unable to replicate without the proper physical specs, and it cannot simply copy a unique talent, meaning he can't copy weapons such as Bachira's dribbling, Nagi's trapping, or Kaiser's swing speed. However, he can emulate an ability he sees from someone else and train his body to be able to replicate it if he is currently unable to. An example being Naruhaya's off-the-ball movements. This skill isn't something reliant on physical specs, but rather just simple footwork, which is what makes such an easy skill for Isagi to devour. Now, these 4 skills define Isagi's current playstyle. However, these 4 skills have also branched out and created new weapons. One being Goal Scent, which is a branched off skill from his core weapon, Spatial Awareness, which he unlocks in chapter 7 of the manga or episode 3 of the anime. Goal Sense is the ability to quickly analyze your allies' weapons and basically sense a high goal scoring probability. This allows for him to create a frontal assault team in order to achieve a goal. We see him do this with Kunigami against Team X and Chigiri against Team W. This skill also helps out defensively as he is able to use it to sense his opponent's strongest link and then cut off their scoring attempt by marking that link. We see him do this against Team Y as well, with him stopping Okawa. The next branch skill is Luck Positioning, originating from Izagi's off-the-ball movements, which he unlocks in chapter 147 of the manga. Luck Positioning allows for Izagi to exploit luck during a game and position himself in an opportune location that will not only place him within the blind spot of an important player, but also score a goal. We see him do this in the U20 match, where he moves to an opportune spot to where the ball would fall after the Rin inside matchup, which also places him in Aiku's blind spot, which is why Aiku was unable to stop him and why Izagi was able to score a goal. And the final branch skill that he learns is Back Heel Direct Shooting, originating from his direct shot weapon, which he unlocks in chapter 81 of the manga. Izagi's direct back heel shot is an altered form of his standard direct shooting technique, which allows for him to score goals on people who are way more skilled than him in terms of foresight or physical specs. He first assesses the positions of the defenders and feints a direct shot in anticipation for his opponent's block. Then he lands a powerful backwards kick on the ball's impact point in order to score a clean shot on the goal. Now those were all the skills that branched out from Izagi's original 4 core weapons, but now here are the weapons that are evolved combinations of those weapons. The first evolved skill that I will be talking about is Reflexivity, a fusion of off-the-ball movements and spatial awareness, which he technically first unlocks in chapter 103 of the manga, but doesn't actually reuse this in play until chapter 236. Reflexivity allows for Izagi to use his awareness of the conditions on the field to find spaces of opportunity, either to attack the opponent's goal or to defend his own. This allows for his actions to not be slowed by his constant thinking, which also allows for him to constantly act even when inputting new information. Izagi inputs information using his spatial awareness and then positions himself using off-the-ball movements in order to score, all while doing both at the exact same time without any hesitation. Another evolved skill is Ambidextrous Direct Shooting, an evolved combination of his direct shooting and emulation, which he unlocks in chapter 212 of the manga. Izagi's Ambidextrous Direct Shooting allows for him to shoot a direct shot with both feet, allowing for his opponent to overthink about which foot he will use to shoot with. This allows for him to quickly fire off a left-footed shot in the instant his right side is blocked off. Now this has happened several times, first with Sai and then with Ness, which is why he emulated this weapon. The only downside is that this shooting technique provides a very reduced impact in relation to his dominant foot. Izagi emulated this skill after watching Kunigami and Noa play, and then refined it in his Egoist 4 2v2 match with Bachira, Kunigami, and Chigiri. And the last of the evolved skills is Metavision, which is a combination of all 4 core weapons. Metavision is a form of evolved vision that gives the user an omnipotent perspective of the field. Using his eyes to constantly take in new information from his central and peripheral vision, while also rotating his head, Izagi constantly collects data on every player, every play they make, and their positions on the field. This allows for him to swiftly predict and shut down the plays of some of the best players in Blue Lock and even one of the best strikers in the world, and further create ideal situations for his own goals using his teammates in a way that is only possible for him. Now Izagi actually unlocked this skill subconsciously in chapter 103 of the manga. However, he didn't fully come to understand it until he played against Sai in the U20 match, as well as emulating Kaiser's thought process in the Manchan City match. Now this evolved weapon was able to create 2 branched weapons as well, the first being Meta Burst Point. Meta Burst Point allows for Izagi to pinpoint the most critical point in the enemy's play and move in to steal the ball or stop the ball at the last second. And the second weapon is Egocentrism Detection. Egocentrism Detection allows for Izagi to quickly observe the plays of his opponent, then calculate their future moves that would make them the hero of the story in order to play around those actions and then shut them down. Through this, Izagi is capable of anticipating, defending against, and shutting down critical, illogical, as well as even some miracle plays that would normally be considered rationally unpredictable and unstoppable. We see him do this against Chigiri in the Manchan City match, which Izagi envisioned Chigiri's story playing with him stopping Izagi's advance at the last second, which he was able to outthink that and then avoid Chigiri's attack. Or when he envisioned Reo's story of him passing to Nagi at the end, which allowed Izagi to quickly stop their chemical reaction. But that is the entire weapon arsenal of Yoichi Izagi as of right now in the story. To begin, I think we should start by discussing Nagi's style of play, that being the creative midfielder. The creative midfielder is a player that is able to create goal-scoring opportunities for the team, often in situations where nothing seems likely. They usually have good ball control, passing ability, and movement, and will be blessed with vision and on-the-ball intelligence. With Nagi's perfect ball control, flexible movements, and technical ability, he is able to breathe life into even the most difficult or hopeless situations. He alone has made the most outrageous goals in the BLUELOCK series due to his skill, and he continues to evolve into a creative playmaker. And after his training with Manshan City, Nagi is much stronger physically, has more refined trapping and ball control, and personally takes the initiative in creating his own plays instead of just being a part of someone else's. You may disagree with that last statement, but if you watch my last video on Nagi Seishiro, you'd understand why that statement is true. Because you did watch my video, right? Right? Yeah, I thought so. But now that we've covered his playstyle, let's look at his weapons. Nagi's arsenal is not nearly as fleshed out as Isagi's is, however his weapons are just as impressive. His first core weapon is in his trapping, which he first displays in chapter 26 of the manga or episode 8 of the anime. Nagi can trap with his entire body, with deadly efficiency, constantly finding ways to turn a bad situation into something favorable. Nagi has trapped the ball using his toes, heels, and even his back, demonstrating the versatility of his trapping. He can trap virtually any object, and he often uses his trapping to manipulate and confuse his opponents when making a run down the field, which combines with his spatial awareness to place himself at the best point possible for amazing traps and follow-up shots. Now when I say spatial awareness, however, I don't mean to say that one of his weapons is spatial awareness in the same way that Isagi has spatial awareness as one of his weapons. Every player has some simple comprehension and applicability of spatial awareness when playing, the only difference being that Isagi's awareness is far superior to others, so Nagi just has the basic stuff. And Nagi's second core weapon is perfect ball control, which he first displays in chapter 34 of the manga or episode 10 of the anime. Nagi has exceptional ball control and demonstrates it constantly by setting up traps and scoring with near pinpoint accuracy. He constantly scores high-level shots, especially in unfavorable positions when under pressure from tough opponents. His ball control is godly, only outshined by Anri, which we've yet to see her practice using ball control, but if she ever decides to show us, I'll be the first one in line. Now those are all of the core weapons that Nagi currently has, however there are several branched and evolved skills that he possesses as well. The first kind is his black hole trap, which is a branched off skill from his trapping ability, which he first demonstrates in chapter 26 of the manga or episode 8 of the anime. Nagi effectively uses his whole body as a cushion for the ball, giving him almost a deadly touch, which kills the ball's entire momentum, giving him the ability to steal possession. This ability is mostly used to steal possession or to receive possession from an ally, as we see Nagi use it to catch Reo's pass in the first selection and then steal Reo's pass in the second selection. This move can then lead to another skill called Trap Shot, which we first see displayed in the same chapter and episode as the previous skill. Nagi uses his black hole trap to catch the ball, and then fires off a direct shot as the ball starts dropping towards the ground. This move is usually done after Nagi jumps for the ball, giving him substantial time to land and fire a shot. Another branch skill is called Life Breathing First Touch, branching off from his ball control skill, which we see him display in chapter 34 of the manga or episode 10 of the anime. Nagi basically does the opposite of what his black hole trap does, and rather than simply killing the momentum of the ball, he redirects it into a preferable direction, essentially breathing life into the ball. We see him do this to pass to himself as well as to others. And the final branch skill is Godlike Dribbling, also branching off from his ball control skill, which was first used in chapter 62 of the manga or episode 14 of the anime. Godlike Dribbling allows for Nagi to dribble at full speed, then immediately grasp control of the ball while it's in motion, and then constantly change the direction of the ball either horizontally or vertically, allowing for his opponent to be unable to steal it. This technique was created to defeat Barou and his charging weapon, so it would stand to reason that players with a similar weapon or similar playstyle would also fall victim to this skill as well. Now those were all the branch skills that Nagi possesses in his arsenal. However, when referring to his evolved techniques, Nagi doesn't have quite as many as Isagi does. The first evolved skill I'll be talking about is called Jumping Turn Trap Shot, which is born from a combination of his trapping skills and ball control skills, which was first displayed in chapter 117 of the manga. Nagi first traps the ball using his black hole trap, and then breathes life into it using his Life Breathing First Touch, propelling the ball into the air, where he proceeds to perform a jumping turn. Then with that momentum that he built up from that jumping turn, he uses his leg like a whip, firing the ball towards the net. We see him perform something similar against Team Z in the first selection, however due to him only using his trapping skill, it's not exactly the same. Another evolved skill that is a slight alteration of his trap shot is called Juggling Trap Shot, first shown in chapter 179 of the manga. Nagi traps the ball, but rather than allowing for himself to land, he uses an opponent as a crutch to fire a juggling shot towards the net. And the last evolved skill that Nagi possesses in his arsenal is called Zero Reset Turn, a combination of his trapping and ball control, which was first displayed in chapter 178 of the manga. Nagi positions himself to receive a pass, and after trapping it, he then spins his leg outward while constantly maintaining possession of the ball, killing the entire flow of the game, allowing for Nagi to create the new flow of the game. This essentially brings everyone back to zero, allowing for Nagi to be the figurehead in the new assault. This would be used in a situation to level the playing field against more technical and skilled players, as immediately putting the brakes on an already existing game flow would cause slight disorientation amongst the opposing team. And because Nagi is so fresh to the sport of soccer, this would temporarily even the playing field, bringing everyone back to his level. But that is the entire weapon arsenal of Nagi Seishiro as of right now in the story. To begin, I believe that we should start with discussing Bachira's style of play, that being the dribbler. Dribblers are players known for their close ball control ability that is used to get past defenders by sudden change of direction and acceleration, sometimes combined with their great pace. The skill is used to create opportunities for other attackers or to score themselves, having broken through the opposition's defense using what is sometimes referred to as trickery. Bachira's dribbling technique allows for him to break through most defenses, with only high-level players being able to stop him, but it is very rare to see the ball actually get stolen from him. His dribbling is rivaled by only a handful of players in BLUELOCK, and mixed with his key passing skill, he has proven to be a much-needed asset on any team. After the initial training of the new Egoist League, Bachira has evolved his dribbling by moving away from his proactive dribbling to a more counteractive dribbling, preferring to read his opponent's movements first, maturing in the way he moves down the field. But now that we've covered his playstyle, let's look at his weapons. Bachira's first core weapon is his elastic dribbling, which was first displayed in chapter 3 of the manga or episode 2 of the anime. Bachira's dribbling style relies on his supreme technique and creativity to get through other players' defenses. His dribbling ability is derived off of his free-flowing nature, allowing for his dribbles to be elastic and almost wavy-like. His next core weapon is Key Passing, which he first displays in chapter 2 of the manga or episode 1 of the anime. Key Passing allows for Bachira to make passes to key players during a match that result in a positive outcome for the team. This can come in the form of a long-range distance pass or short 1-2 combos that break down an opponent's defensive line. And his last core weapon is Reflexivity, which first debuts in chapter 2 of the manga or episode 1 of the anime. Now, Reflexivity allows for Bachira to move solely based on what either the monster tells him or his own intuition. This reflexivity is highly partnered with his dribbling or passing weapons in order to create golden opportunities for whichever team that he's on. Now, unlike the other characters that I've done before, Bachira's weapons evolve like Pokemon. Each stage of his evolution provides new techniques to his dribble and passing weapons rather than creating brand new weapons. The next stage of his weapons are egotistical dribbling and advanced passes. Both of these weapons have new techniques incorporated into them that increase their potency during a game. Egotistical dribbling is an evolved form of Bachira's dribbling style, first debuted in chapter 84 of the manga or episode 22 of the anime. During the second selection, Bachira evolved his dribbling to a new egotistical style where he refuses to pass the ball, preferring to move dynamically past defenders alone. This allows for him to use the skills that I'm about to list in order to score goals on his own rather than relying on others. That being said, he will still pass to others who he sees are in a good position, being Nagi, Isagi, and Rin, just to name a few. Now, his first technique incorporated into this new style is called Hyperspeed Scissors, first demonstrated in chapter 26 of the manga or episode 9 of the anime. Bachira repeatedly steps over the ball, causing his opponent to slow down in an attempt to predict where he will move, which gives him an opportunity to pass them. This move is technically used in combination with another technique in order to juke out an opponent, as Hyperspeed Scissors alone isn't enough to pass skilled players. The next technique is called Marseille Turn, which was first displayed in chapter 26 of the manga or episode 9 of the anime. This move typically follows Hyperspeed Scissors, which allows for him to fully juke a player simply by performing a roulette spin. And the technique after this is called Aerial Elastica, which was first also shown in chapter 26 of the manga or episode 9 of the anime. Bachira either lobs the ball upwards or lifts it using his elastic dribbling, which baits an enemy close before allowing him to blow past them. The next technique is Rabona Chip, which was first displayed in chapter 26 of the manga or episode 9 of the anime. This technique allows for Bachira to lob the ball over an opponent by kicking the ball with his leg crossed behind the other, and we see him first do this to score on Team B in the first selection. The next skill is Double Touch Feint, which was first displayed in chapter 113 of the manga. This skill is similar to Hyperspeed Scissors, where Bachira quickly performs repeated double touches as if the ball is glued to his feet, confusing the opponent. And the last skill of his second stage dribbling is Aerial Rush Turn, also first displayed in chapter 113 of the manga. Bachira plants his foot on top of the ball before turning at max speed, dragging the ball along his running course, allowing for a swift blow past an opponent. Now, those were all the techniques for Bachira's second stage dribbling, but next up are the skills for his second stage passes. First up is his topspin daisy cutter, first displayed in chapter 47 of the manga or episode 13 of the anime. Bachira sends a pass that is very near touching the ground with insane topspin. This pass is intended for those with insane ball control that allow the receiver to redirect the ball's momentum in order to give them a better opportunity to perform with that said pass. The next skill is Skyborn Daisy Cutter, first displayed in chapter 75 of the manga or episode 20 of the anime. This pass has the exact opposite effect as the other pass, giving it insane backspin, allowing for his low-flying Daisy Cutter to soar upwards as it reaches its correct trajectory. Now this pass is usually directed towards those with insane jumping potential or just insane natural height, which allows for them to intercept the pass in the air before anyone else can. The next skill is No Look Pass, which was first used in chapter 74 of the manga or episode 20 of the anime. Bachira uses the Rabona technique to pass without looking. He is also able to use this technique to trick his opponent into pressing him when in actuality, he's baiting them into opening up a window for him to pass through. And the last passing skill is called Link Crossover, which was first used in chapter 15 of the manga or episode 5 of the anime. Bachira uses the movements of another player to pinpoint a pass that will allow this specific player to shine. He most often performs this cross with Isagi, as Isagi is another player who Bachira can link up with very easily. Now those were all of his stage 2 weapons and techniques. However, Bachira has a third stage of evolution, specifically for his dribbling weapon, only when combined with his reflexivity weapon. Bachira's third stage of his dribbling style is called Monster Trance, also known as his flow state, which was first shown in chapter 141 of the manga. Bachira yields into his impulses, effectively becoming the monster that he used to envision. This state allows for him to perform his techniques incredibly quickly, including multiple feints and moving purely on instinct. Since he moves without conscious thought, it is incredibly difficult to predict and stop from the defender's perspective. In this state, Bachira was able to easily overcome the U20 defenders and even Oliver Aiku, the best defender shown in the entire series, not counting Lorenzo. This evolved style does come with a new technique as well. This skill is called Monster Smash Lift, which was first displayed in chapter 141 of the manga. Monster Smash Lift allows for Bachira to quickly lift the ball before smashing it towards the ground, launching it directly over the opponent's head. This move is almost unpredictable as the motions he makes up until the moment of impact reflect that of a shooting motion, which when actually leading into a smash lift results in the enemy having to readjust their position for a counter, which is when Bachira slips past them. Now with this third stage of evolution, Bachira can still continue to use all of the techniques from his previous evolution, almost to a heightened degree. And with Bachira's final stage, he evolves his flow state even more by incorporating Lavanha's Jinga, which he learned from Spain's FC Barça, creating a new skill called Jinga X Monster, first displayed in chapter 160 of the manga. Incorporating Jinga allows for Bachira to not only refine his dribbling posture, but also the speed of his techniques, allowing for him to easily become a one-man dribbling army. This new style also produces a few new techniques, first called Beast Shot, which first debuted in chapter 161 of the manga. Bachira's dribbling allows for him to destroy an entire backline, then after receiving a pass, he twists his entire body before shooting, hitting with the bottom of his heel, producing a low power but quick and accurate chip shot to any place that he chooses. And the second technique that he learns is called Trick Break, which first debuts in chapter 160 of the manga. Bachira takes note of Sai's counter dribble technique that he saw in the U20 match, and lets his opponent act first, which allows for his Monster X Jenga style to quickly flow past them, while only acting the moment the opponent gets into a position that would be difficult to recover from. An example being the moment that they take a step, but that is currently every weapon, skill, and technique in Meguru Bachira's arsenal.
To begin, I think that we should start with discussing Barou's style of play, that being the complete forward. Complete forwards are strikers with great technical ability, clinical finishing, and physical strength, enabling them to fulfill multiple roles on the pitch. These players typically are used to link up with others for their own benefit, finish off team moves, or to just hold up the ball. They are often best given the freedom to play as they wish, without rigid tactical instruction, as their versatility allows for them to be fluid on the pitch. Barou's physique enables him to hold up the ball and physically contest other players. His charging ability allows for him to dribble and create chances for himself, and his shooting and villainous style enable him to finish off team moves by devouring his own teammates. It is also stated by Snuffy that Barou's specs make him the best striker-type player in BLUELOCK, and most likely the entire new Egoist League. But now that we've covered his playstyle, let's look at his weapons. Barou actually has 4 core weapons that make up the basis for his soccer style. The first is called Charge, first displayed in chapter 5 of the manga or episode 3 of the anime. Barou's insane physique allows for him to steamroll through the opposing team, thereby resulting in him getting into a favorable position for himself. His second core weapon is called Middle Shot, first displayed in chapter 6 of the manga or episode 3 of the anime. Barou's main method of scoring is his powerful and accurate shot from a position near the middle middle of the goal. Barou can target the top right corner with incredible reliability, being almost guaranteed to score within a specific area of the goal, his personal zone being within 29 meters from the goal. His next core skill is called Villainous Soccer, first shown in chapter 66 of the manga or episode 15 of the anime. Villainous Soccer describes Barou's mindset while playing, consisting of Barou devouring his own teammates for the sake of his own goal. On the field, Barou will look to where he can steal the ball from his teammates to capitalize on their positioning and devour them. And his last skill is Predator Eye, first shown in chapter 216 of the manga. Described as the complete opposite of Metavision, instead of expanding his vision, Barou drastically narrows it down and focuses solely on the goalkeeper, and waits patiently for the opponent to drop their guard and then score a goal. Now those four weapons make up the foundation for Barou's playstyle. However, as opposed to the other videos, Barou only has two branched weapons. Barou's first branched weapon is called Chop Feint, branching off from his Villainous Soccer weapon, revealed in chapter 66 of the manga or episode 15 of the anime. Barou uses his off foot to shield the ball, while knocking it in the other direction with his other foot, effectively misdirecting the opposing player. And his second branch skill is called Player Hunting, also a branch skill from his Villainous Soccer weapon, first displayed in chapter 132 of the manga. Barou targets one specific player's light and devotes himself to devouring them, taking advantage of all their plays by stealing the ball from them or the opponent. We see him do this first with Isagi and then with Rin, which is what allowed for him to score in the U20 match. Now those were all the branch skills that Barou currently has. However, he does have quite a few evolved skills that are created by combining several of his core weapons. The first being Lightning Dribble, a combination of Villainous Soccer and Charge, first displayed in chapter 66 of the manga or episode 15 of the anime. By making use of chop feints, continuous rebounds, and angled dribbles, Barou is able to perform a mazy dribble that is incredibly difficult to stop. While performing these chops and charges, he routes his dribble path between allies, using them as shields in order to hide his next play and then break past the opponent. The next skill is called Sliding Shot, a combination of Villainous Soccer, Charge, and Middle Shot, first shown in chapter 137 of the manga. Barou uses his player hunting technique to lock onto a specific player, then charges in with full force before sliding and using his leg like a whip to fire the ball towards the net, producing incredible force despite not being within his preferred shooting range. The next skill is called Stealth Kill Shot, a combination of Predator Eye and Middle Shot, first shown in chapter 215 of the manga. Barou uses continuous chops or passes to crowd his own shooting zone. He then positions himself behind an ally or an enemy, then uses Predator Eye to focus on the goalie. Then once the goalie is caught off guard, he fires a shot towards the net, giving him an almost uncontested shot due to the goalie being unaware as to where the shot will actually come from and from who. His last evolved skill is called Double Nutmeg Shot, a combination of all four core weapons, first shown in chapter 228 of the manga. Barou replicates his formula for Stealth Kill Shot. However, in a situation where only a few players rush in to block him, he utilizes his charging weapon to position himself to where both defenders cross over. He then fires a shot between their legs, giving almost the same result as Stealth Kill Shot. But that is all of Barou Shoei's abilities in BLUELOCK as of right now in the story. Again, I think we should start with discussing Chigiri's style of play, that being the counter-attacker. Counter-attackers are any attacking player that uses their pace to beat defenders and cause unexpected scoring opportunities at any time. Counter-attacking opportunities occur when the opposition are themselves attacking a team with most of their players forward. Chigiri's natural physical disposition allows for him to run at incredible speeds compared to most players, and along with his great focus, he's able to keep control of the ball and his speed while moving through tight spaces between players and switching between dribbling and passing seamlessly. After training with Manshan City, Chigiri more carefully decides where he is going to cut and run to, as Chigiri now aims for his ideal shooting zone, using his refined speed and dribbling instead of just blindly running into the penalty area as fast as possible. But now that we've covered his playstyle, let's look at his weapons. Chigiri's arsenal contains two core weapons, the first being Immeasurable Speed, first displayed in chapter 19 of the manga or episode 7 of the anime. Chigiri has naturally strong leg muscles and expert footwork, which enables him to run down the field at incredible speeds. While his speed is rivaled by a handful of players, as of yet, nobody has been able to beat him in a direct contest of maximum speed. This speed, when combined with his perception and awareness of positioning, enables him to choose the appropriate breakthrough point in an opponent's defense and to speed through. His second weapon is called Golden Zone, first displayed in chapter 176 of the manga. This weapon is a style that Chigiri developed under the mentorship of Chris Prince, which combines the different skills and techniques that he's learned in BLUELOCK, as well as enhancing them with the training in the new Egotist League, enabling him to score goals in a way that is unique to him and him alone. Now Chigiri does have many branched weapons associated with both of his core weapons. The first is called 50-meter long sprint, branching off from his immeasurable speed, first displayed in chapter 31 of the manga or episode 9 of the anime. When facing off against an opponent with explosive acceleration, he kicks the ball out to a distance that will allow for his opponent's initial burst to slow down, allowing for him to overtake them. He's only done this to a 50-meter distance, however performing this with a smaller or larger distance could possibly be ineffective, as this creates a giant weak point for the player, as the ball can be easily stolen if intercepted before the 50-meter mark. His second weapon is called No Break Dribble, also branching off from his immeasurable speed weapon, first shown in chapter 63 of the manga or episode 17 of the anime. Instead of trapping a pass, Chigiri bounces the ball forward without stopping his run. He then runs at breakneck speeds with the ball in tow, and during the sprint accelerates even faster without losing momentum from adjustment, being unable to be stopped by anyone trying to stop him or defend the goal. This dribble style was created due to his weakness of slowing down after gaining ball possession. And his last skill is called High Speed Pressure, like the other two, also branching off from his immeasurable speed weapon, first displayed in chapter 79 of the manga or episode 21 of the anime. Chigiri is able to utilize his speed in a defensive manner by quickly moving across the field to hound whoever is in possession of the ball. This pressure can force errors in the opponents and easily allows Chigiri's team to set up traps. However, this tactic is incredibly draining on Chigiri's stamina as he cannot run for long periods of time. We first see this technique used against Bachira, which allowed Isagi to match Rin's thought process due to Bachira holding up the ball because of the pressure. Now those were all of the weapons that branched out from Chigiri's immeasurable speed. However, his Golden Zone also has some branch skills as well. The first being Mach Cutting, branching off from his Golden Zone formula, first displayed in chapter 176 of the manga. Chigiri baits his opponent by remaining still, then from no motion he bursts into a cut-in, going either outside or inside the opposing defender. He can perform this move multiple times to speed past multiple defenders and eventually reach his shooting zone. This weapon is actually the second step in his Golden Zone formula, which follows the first, being identifying his perfect zone, which is approximately 44 degrees left, 19 meters from the goal. His only other branch weapon is called 44 Panther Snipe, also first displayed in chapter 176 of the manga. By quickly centering his body, Chigiri is able to unleash a highly controlled and accurate shot into the top left corner of the goal. While technically being a shot, the shooting power is more similar to a pass, as this technique focuses more on control and accuracy as opposed to power like Kunigami shots. Now unfortunately, as of now, Chigiri has no evolved skills from the weapons I've mentioned before, meaning that is every single weapon that Chigiri Hyoma possesses in his arsenal as of right now in the story. To start this breakdown, the first thing that we need to address is Rin's playstyle, that being the playmaker. Playmakers are players who control the flow of the team's offensive play and are often involved in passing moves which lead to goals through their vision, technique, ball control, creativity, and passing ability. Now whether on offense or defense, Rin's playstyle consists of him grasping the abilities of his teammates and his opponents and forcing out their best plays and abilities, manipulating them all in his efforts to score goals for himself. But now that we've addressed his playstyle, let's look at Rin's core weapons. The first of Rin's weapons isn't technically a core weapon, but it's apparently labeled as a core weapon, so we have to count it. So the first is called Superior Football Technique, first displayed in chapter 45 of the manga or episode 13 of the anime. Rin is one of the 2 players in BLUELOCK who has top tier stats, as during the 3rd selection, he scored an average of 2.5 goals a game, which is the highest among the top 6. His spatial awareness, ball control, power, and kicking accuracy are only rivaled by a handful of players. The reason for Rin's superiority over a player such as Shidou is that Rin's willingness to cooperate with and create chemical reactions with his teammates, while Shidou scores goals completely independently. Rin's experience and techniques are all advanced enough that he's able to play the role of captain, act as the focal point for an offense, play in defense, and even overcome high-level defenders using their own strengths against them. The next core skill of his is called Perfect Kicking Accuracy, also first shown in chapter 45 of the manga or episode 13 of the anime. Rin's primary weapon is his highly accurate kicking. His shooting and passing accuracy is near perfect, as demonstrated when he kicked 2 balls in such a way that they traveled different trajectories, yet still hit each other in midair. Rin's kicks are so accurate that he is able to score from long distance. Isagi implied that he could potentially score from anywhere below 35 meters, free kicks, and even directly from corner kicks. Even when being physically pressured by players like Shidou or Karasu, he is still able to make a pinpoint shot. His next core weapon is called Spatial Awareness, first displayed in chapter 48 of the manga or episode 13 of the anime. Rin analyzes the entire field, including the positions of himself, his teammates, and his opponents in order to determine the best play. His tactical ability and spatial awareness are at such a level that only Isagi can understand
counter, and rival his analytical ability. Rin is able to routinely predict the positioning and movements of other players, including Isagi, setting up traps and baits to lure them into unfavorable positions, intercepting their plays and setting up his own. The next core skill is called off-the-ball movements, first shown in chapter 48 of the manga or episode 13 of the anime. Off-the-ball relates to the movements where players are not currently in possession of the ball. Rin makes use of these movements to position himself in an opponent's blind spot, as well as to maneuver into goal-scoring positions. He does this after determining the field of vision of the players on the pitch, similarly to Isagi, and his last core weapon is called Puppet Master Soccer Style, first shown in chapter 74 of the manga or episode 20 of the anime. Rin's main playstyle is about controlling and manipulating what his opponent thinks. After identifying the strengths and weaknesses of each player on the field, Rin uses his superior technique, tactical and physical ability to manipulate them into scenarios that will result in a goal. He can do this by using his own abilities against the opponent or by combining his strengths with his team's. This style of soccer pushes his team's abilities to their limits and then beyond that, resulting in highly complex and effective passages of play that often result in a goal. Now Rin also has an ability called flow state, which I think we all know what flow state is, but it was first shown in chapter 144 of the manga. Flow, as described by Ego, is the state of total immersion or being in the zone. It is the mental state in which a person performing some activity is fully immersed in the feeling of energized focus, full involvement, and enjoyment in the process of the activity. Rin's style of football usually revolves around precisely calculating the weapons of the players on the field and then drawing them out to utilize them, manipulating the field for the best way to score. However, when in flow, rather than bringing out the opponent's weapons to effectively utilize them, Rin draws out their weapons in order to shut them down. This usually involves Rin baiting them in some way to use their strongest weapon before overcoming them directly, while in flow, Rin is noted to be several levels above his standard abilities. Now when looking at his branched weapons, Rin has a lot of branched weapons, so buckle in. The first branched weapon is called Pinpoint High-Speed Free Kick, branching off from his perfect kicking accuracy weapon, first displayed in chapter 80 of the manga or episode 21 of the anime. Rin fires a blazing fast free kick with incredible accuracy, and this free kick was so fast and accurate that it went right over Isagi's head without giving him a chance to react. His next branch weapon is called Vertical Spinning Direct Shot, also branching off from his perfect kicking accuracy weapon, first displayed in chapter 48 of the manga or episode 13 of the anime. This kick is a direct shot from the corner spot, which directly targets the furthest top corner of the goal with insane vertical spin. The next skill is called Off-Foot Line Drive Shot, again branching off from his perfect kicking accuracy weapon, first shown in chapter 117 of the manga. Rin attempted to replicate his brother's shot by dribbling to the byline and using his left foot to fire the ball over the goalkeeper and into the far side netting. However, the decrease in shot power and accuracy meant that his shot was saved and hit the post. By the way, all of these weapons for a little while are branching off from his perfect kicking accuracy weapon, and I'm sure you don't want to hear me say those words over and over again, so I'm just not going to say them, but you know. The next branch skill is called Jump Shot, first shown in chapter 74 of the manga or episode 20 of the anime. After feinting to circumvent an opponent's defense, Rin lifts the ball and performs a jumping roundhouse kick, and with this technique, Rin is able to both shoot with frightening accuracy and evade a challenge from an opponent. The next skill is called Blind Shot, first shown in chapter 99 of the manga. Rin takes full advantage of the movements of another player to shield the ball from the keeper's vision before firing a blind shot that the keeper cannot react to in time. Now if this move looks a little familiar to you, that's because this move is very similar to Barou's stealth kill shot, meaning Rin could possibly have Predator Eye, but who knows. After that, the next branch skill is called Trivela Shot, first shown in chapter 120 of the manga. The Trivela technique is where one puts spin on the ball using the outside of their foot. Rin hides this form to force the assumption that he will shoot with his left foot before shooting with his right. Rin is able to do this and score from the outside penalty area, as demonstrated against the Japan U20 team. The next skill is called Spinning Mid-Range Shot, first shown in chapter 239 of the manga. Rin shoots the ball from mid-range with a large amount of spin so that it bounces into the goal. After that, we have the Trivela Pass, first shown in chapter 77 of the manga or episode 21 of the anime. Rin can use this technique to pass the ball, manipulating the opponent into thinking his pass is missed, only for it to backspin to its destination. And finally, the last branch skill related to perfect kicking accuracy is Oppressive Pass, first shown in chapter 77 of the manga or episode 21 of the anime. Rin makes a difficult pass to his teammate in order to continue a play, and he usually will play this pass into the optimal space for his teammate to retrieve it and then return the pass in the case of Ario, or into the space where he expects his teammate to break through in the case of Bachira. This pass, as opposed to a more creative one, actually challenges the limitations of Rin's team, forcing them to rise to meet his own expectations. Now for the first branch skill that isn't related to perfect kicking accuracy is called Spacing, branching off from his spatial awareness weapon, first shown in chapter 48 of the manga or episode 13 of the anime. By reading the weapon of his opponent as well as the positions of the other players on the field, Rin spaces himself in a way as to allow for him to predict and respond to whatever they decide to do. The next branch skill is called synchronization, also branching off from his spatial awareness weapon, first displayed in chapter 140 of the manga. Rin is also able to use his spatial awareness defensively. Through reading and understanding the core of his opponent's football, he can overlap his thoughts with theirs to predict what they're going to do next. He uses this to halt the combined offense of Sai and Shidou during the U20 match. However, focusing solely on playing defensively makes it difficult for him to join the offense to score his own goals. The next skill is called luck positioning, branching off from his off-the-ball movements, first displayed in chapter 85 of the manga or episode 23 of the anime. Rin has incredible positioning, constantly moving to areas where he can receive the ball and still be able to score. If Rin realizes that he will not be receiving a pass, he always positions himself in a place where he would be able to score if he should receive the ball by chance. He demonstrated this positioning during the second selection as well as during the U20 match, and Rin also uses this defensively in combination with his spatial awareness. After using his spacing, Rin gives himself enough room to predict where the opponent will likely break through and then uses his positioning to intercept them. The other skill branching off from his off-the-ball movements is called super speed interlock, first shown in chapter 90 of the manga or episode 23 of the anime. By using the movements of another player as a precursor, Rin moves into a position where he can meet a quick cross in an open space. He uses this in conjunction with Bachira to score against the World 5. The next branch skill is called feint, branching off from his puppet master soccer style, first shown in chapter 74 of the manga or episode 20 of the anime. By positioning himself at a range where he can shoot, Rin manipulates his opponents into thinking that he will shoot, and this draws in the opponent to attempt to block before he feints in order to bypass them. Rin can also use this in reverse by changing his form and hiding his motion. He fools his opponent into thinking that he won't shoot before he does. After that comes Marcel's turn, also branching off from his puppet master soccer style, first shown in chapter 77 of the manga or episode 21 of the anime. By manipulating his opponent into thinking that he will perform a regular feint, Rin transitions into a roulette turn to get around their defense. Now for Rin's flow state, it has its own unique branched weapons. The first is called opposite acceleration, first shown in chapter 144 of the manga. When facing someone with speed as their weapon, Rin knocks the ball to the side in order to bait their acceleration forward before he suddenly accelerates in the opposite direction, nutmegging them in the process, and he uses this to get by Neru in the U20 match. The next skill is called hidden path ceiling, also first shown in chapter 144 of the manga. When facing someone with off-the-ball movements as their weapon, Rin will cross them multiple times to get in behind them, before using his hand to prevent them from turning around to stop him, and he used this to get by Dorai also in the U20 match. And the last of his flow abilities is called center of gravity full burst, and like the others, also first shown in chapter 144 of the manga. When facing someone with core strength as their weapon, Rin will force a physical pressure duel, knocking the ball upwards as bait. When they charge in, Rin will shift to a stance with a lower center of gravity to break their balance using their own charge against them, and like the other two, he used it to get by Niue in the U20 match. But those were all of the skills shown by Itoshi Rin prior to the new Egoist League. To begin, I think we should start with discussing Reo's style of play, that being the utility player. Utility players are those who are able to play many different positions optimally due to their above average stats in all areas. Capable of playing any role that his team needs, Reo is incredibly versatile, being able to cover ground, create opportunities for his teammates, score using techniques adopted from his teammates, and defend the opposition's biggest threat. Reo is fully capable of doing it all for his team, no matter where they need or when they need. After playing against the Japan U20 team and training with England's Manchan City, Reo has incorporated all of the skills that he's learned from the positions that he's played into a singular style that makes him a strong and variable player who can start and finish off any kind of play. But now that we've addressed his play style, let's look at his weapons. For this Arsenal video, I need to format it similarly to Bachira's Arsenal video, so if you've seen that video, you'll hopefully understand how I format this Arsenal breakdown. However, I do suggest checking that one out if you haven't, because it's a good video. The first of Reo's weapons is called Dexterity, shown in chapter 28 of the manga or episode 8 of the anime. Despite not being involved in soccer from a very young age, Reo is skilled at all aspects of the sport. He has excellent passing, shooting, dribbling, and ball control capabilities. He also has high physical capabilities with good stamina and speed. On many occasions, it's been stated that if most of the people in BLUELOCK have low skill levels in some of their stats and extremely high skill levels in others, then Reo has almost perfect stats across the board, making him able to play the majority of the positions in soccer. And the second of his core weapons is called Incomplete Metavision, first displayed in chapter 189 of the manga. Now, Metavision is a term used to describe a player's evolved vision that gives him an omnipotent perspective of the field. Using his eyes to constantly take in the information from his central and peripheral vision, Reo constantly collects data on every player, every play they make, and their positions on the field. However, as compared to Isagi's, Reo's metavision is currently incomplete as he doesn't fully understand what this ability is and is using it subconsciously. Now, Reo's core weapon, while being being able to branch off, also evolves in stages, similarly to Bachira's dribbling. The second stage of his dexterity weapon is called Chameleon, first displayed in chapter 106 of the manga. Using his all-rounder skills, excellent soccer abilities and sense, and his 99 out of 100 stats across all of his various skills, Reo is able to emulate the abilities that other players have demonstrated. Reo uses his nearly perfect skills to be able to understand how others, who are specialized in certain areas, are able to produce certain abilities, and using this understanding, he's able to recreate those abilities on his own. The only downside of this ability is that Reo can only copy the skills and abilities that are within his physical capability and not natural physical talent, such as Shidou Ryusei's extreme physical moves or Hyoma Chigiri's insane speeds. The abilities that he copies, however, are weaker than the original because of his skills only reaching 99% at max power and cannot match up to the originals when compared. The first branch skill of this weapon is called Chameleon Gyro Shot, a copy of Yukimiya's Gyro Shot, first displayed in chapter 106 of the manga. By copying Yukimiya, Reo is able to replicate his gyro shot, a spinning shot with insane rotation, and we see him use this to score in the third selection. The next skill is called Chameleon Long Pass, a copy of Bachira's Long Pass, first displayed in chapter 26 of the manga or episode 8 of the anime. We see Reo copy Bachira's Long Pass in the first selection as a way of sending a pass to Nagi. His next branch skill is called Chameleon Serpent Blockade, a copy of Oliver Aiku's Serpent Blockade, first displayed in chapter 129 of the manga. Reo copies Oliver Aiku's jumping ability to quickly snuff out a pass from side to Shidou in the U20 match, and this weapon is used in his Chameleon defense mode. After that comes Chameleon Core Pressure, a copy of Niue's Core Pressure, first shown in chapter 130 of the manga. Reo plants his feet and angles his body to take full advantage of his core, allowing for him to be as solid as a brick wall. We see him copy this ability during the U20 match to limit Shidou's shooting options, and this skill is also a part of his Chameleon defense mode. And his last branch skill is called Chameleon Trap Shot, a copy of Nagi's Trap Shot, first shown in chapter 135 of the manga. By copying Nagi's form, he's able to replicate his trap shot, allowing for him to unlock pristine control over the ball and fire it up the field. And we see him use this to protect the goal when Gagamaru fell down in the U20 match. But the final stage of this weapon is called Neo Chameleon, first displayed in chapter 174 of the manga. Neo Chameleon is an evolved state of his previous chameleon style, which after improving his overall physical abilities and stats, it allows him to copy the skills of higher level players. Now as of me writing this, we've only seen the iteration of this skill in the form of Striker mode, which comes from him combining the skills and techniques of Itoshi Rin and Itoshi Sai. The first of his skills with this evolved weapon is called Neo Chameleon Trivela, a copy of Itoshi Rin's Trivela shot, first displayed in chapter 174 of the manga. By copying Rin's form and kicking ability, Reo is almost able to nearly perfect Rin's Trivela shot that was shown in the U20 match. However, like his previous chameleon style, this copy cannot compare to the original. And the second skill of this evolved weapon is called Neo Chameleon Counter Dribble Nutmeg, a copy of Sai's Crossed Elastico Nutmeg, first displayed in chapter 174 of the manga. Similarly to Rin, after his training, Reo is able to copy Sai's counter dribble technique, giving him access to Sai's unique skill, the Cross Elastico Nutmeg. We see Reo use his technique against Ness, allowing for him to move past him. Now those were all of the skills currently shown with his Neo Chameleon style. However, he has been shown to use his Striker mode to support other players, most recently Nagi in the match against Bastard, which allowed for both of them to score a world-class goal. But that is all of the weapons and abilities in Mikage Reo's arsenal as of right now in the story. Now, like all of my previous Arsenal videos, we need to begin with looking at Hiiragi's playstyle. Now, due to Hiiragi being such a newly introduced character, we don't have a specific archetype to give him. However, I'm going to be giving him the label of Tactical Director. Tactical Directors are players who use carefully planned strategies in order to achieve a specific end. They deeply analyze industry trends and market forces, trying to anticipate the moves of their competitors, and they try to beat them to the punch before they even know that they're in a fight. These types of players are usually the figurehead in the majority of plays. Whether they are the leading actor or not, the plans are usually inspired by their ideas. Hiiragi is able to use his existing data on other players to create a goal-scoring formula based around his data gathered on their previous gameplay. We also have the appearance on Hiiragi's Awakened Aura style, which appears to be tarot cards, which to be fair was pretty expected. However, I was hoping it would have been something more omniscient looking, like a humanoid statue-like entity, because to me the tarot cards just look pretty plain. But anyways, now that we've covered those aspects, let's look at his weapons. His first weapon is called Fortune Prediction, first shown in chapter 20 of the episode Nagi Side Story. Hiiragi's obsession with fortune telling allows for him to fixate on causation and plan making. Using his analysis of players in previous matches, he's able to predict how they will act during a game. We see him easily be able to predict the plays of both Nagi and Barou simply by understanding their character and personality, and this allowed him to easily surpass both players. His other core weapon is called Mobile Trapping, also shown in the exact same chapter. While his trapping in some situations can rival even that of Nagi's, Hiiragi's trapping is more used when he's in motion rather than being stationary. extraordinary. We see this weapon be put on full display as he was able to perform a running trap without losing speed against Nagi, as well as performing a trap while rotating to score a goal. Now there is a branched weapon from the specific core weapon called Mobile Volley Shot, revealed in chapter 20 of the episode Nagi's side story. This skill allows for him to perform a volley shot by using his opponent as a crutch, similarly to Nagi's juggling shot shown in a match against Bastard in the New English League. And those were all of the weapons that he has displayed so far. However, Hiiragi's overall skill set, according to Nagi, is a hybrid of Isagi's and his own. This means that Hiiragi most likely has a variation on Isagi's spatial awareness. However, unlike Isagi's, which combines both his brain and his eyes, his is more geared and centered towards his brain. Aside from those weapons, we know of one chemical reaction that he was able to form, which is called Big Soccer Data, a chemical reaction of soccer and human statistics. Big Soccer Data involves Hiiragi analyzing the playstyles and personalities of his opponents in order to create a formula designed to crush them in individual situations as well as group situations. To me, this reminds me of Snuffy's limitless designs that allow for Ubers to act on the offensive and defensive so effortlessly. But in reference to Big Soccer Data, this chemical reaction is a combination of Hiiragi, Nico, and Zantetsu. But as of right now, that is all of the information that we have on Reiji Hiiragi and the weapons in his arsenal. It only feels fair to start with the #1 player in the world in Blue Lock, that being Noah. Looking at Noah's playstyle and archetype, his playstyle is that of the complete forward. Complete forwards are strikers with great technical ability, clinical finishing, and physical strength, enabling them to fulfill multiple roles on the pitch. They can link up with and play with others, fashion chances for themselves, or finish off team moves by holding up the ball. Now these strikers are best often given the opportunity to play as they wish, without rigid tactical instruction, as their versatility allows for them to be very fluid on the pitch. Now looking at Noah's weapons, his first core weapon is called Supreme Physicality, first revealed in chapter 165 of the manga. With a supreme and well-balanced physicality as a base and the skill that comes from being completely ambidextrous, Noah is a player that has unlimited options. He can act as a starter for any play, connect with his teammates, and finish off plays with little difficulty, even when faced against players on par with his skill level. His next core weapon is called Ambidexterity, also first shown in chapter 165 of the manga. Noah is completely and evenly ambidextrous with his feet, allowing for him to dribble, trap, pass, feint, and shoot the ball with either foot at any angle with the same level of power and accuracy on either side. Now Noah also has a branched weapon in his arsenal known as the Machine Dribble, branching off from his Supreme Physicality weapon and, like the other skills, shown in chapter 165 of the manga. Noah's dribble style involves him moving forward efficiently with the ball with pure speed and power. The reason for this dribble style being called the Machine Dribble is simply due to the efficiency of his dribbling, leaving no room for error as if a machine was directing his movements. And his last weapon is actually an evolved skill called All-Powerful Shot, a combination of his Supreme Physicality and Ambidexterity weapons, and as you can probably guess, was also first shown in chapter 165 of the manga. With Noah's Ambidexterity and his top Physicality, Noah is able to make any kind of shot with either foot, being able to constantly feint while switching feet, and finish off a play with a shot that does not lose power or accuracy from using both feet in tandem. And as of now in the story, those were all of Noah's skills that we know of. Next up, following the #1, we have the #2 player in the world, Chris Prince. Looking at Prince's playstyle, his playstyle is known as the Target Man. Target Men are strikers or central forwards that generally have a high degree of physical strength and are usually tall in height. They are able to make space, score goals, or hold up play with the ball waiting for support no matter how much pressure defenders are putting on them. They specialize in taking and controlling the ball in the air or along the ground, often from long passes, with the strength to hold off defenders while receiving said long passes and sometimes volleying the ball. Being a tall player with a perfect physical body and the confidence and awareness to do whatever he wants with it, Chris is able to expertly mark even the best of players into a corner, receive the ball in a pressured situation, and still be able to make space for a shot and take one while being pressured by Noah himself and Bastard München's rationality. Now looking at his weapons, Chris Prince only has 2 confirmed weapons. The first is known as Perfect Physicality, first shown in chapter 193 of the manga. With the personalized training he developed himself in order to strengthen his strongest attributes, Chris acquired a body of high caliber, reaching the maximum stats in everything in the parameters of Blue Lock. His physical prowess is so great that during the match against Bastard München, he easily kept up with Kaiser, even pressuring him when getting serious, something that no one else has been able to do. His other confirmed weapon is the Illogical Knuckleball, first shown in chapter 194 of the manga. In order to surpass Noah, Chris does a knuckleball that is so random that neither he nor the goalkeeper know where the shot will actually land. And with that, those are all of the weapons in Chris Prince's arsenal as of right now in the story. Now next up we have the dancer of Barca, Lavanho. Looking at Lavanho's playstyle, he is defined as the dribbler. Dribblers are players known for their close ball control ability that is used to get past defenders by sudden change of direction and acceleration, sometimes combined with their great pace. The skill is used to create opportunities for other attackers or to score themselves, having broken through the opponent's defensive line using what is sometimes referred to as trickery. Now looking at his weapons, the first one in his arsenal is called the Perfect Dribble, first shown in chapter 164 of the manga. Levanno has immense mastery with the ball, managing to dribble it from any position with creative and fluid dribbles. His dribbling style is so high that when opponents try to block him, they end up falling to the ground for not following his dance with the ball, managing to easily advance to the goal without losing possession. Now similarly to Bachira's dribbling style, as well as his Arsenal video, which you should go check out by the way, Levanno's dribbling evolves in stages. The second confirmed stage of his dribbling is called Jenga style, also first shown in chapter 164 of the manga. Levanno employs the Jenga concept of capoeira into his soccer style, which makes him create a mental image of himself as a butterfly flying across the field, and with that mental image, he manages to develop flexible and unpredictable dribbles that only the best striker in the world can actually follow. Now branching off from this second stage of dribbling, Levanno has a single branched weapon, which is called Rising Dance. Like the other skills, also first shown in chapter 164 of the manga. In a 2-on-1 situation, Levanno first does a rainbow flick to get past one opponent, and then uses that same opponent as a wall to stop the other one from pursuing him. We see him do this against Isagi and Noa in the Barou match, allowing for Levanno to break past Noa, using Isagi as a wall for Noa to have to move around. Now as of the current chapter, those were all of the confirmed skills in Levanno's arsenal. Now next up we have the crowned messenger of Ubers, Mark Snuffy. Starting with his playstyle, Snuffy also shares the same archetype as Noa, being the complete forward. However, because you already heard me explain what that archetype is, I'm not going to do it again. Now also like Noa, Snuffy's first weapon is called Supreme Physicality, first shown in chapter 222 of the manga. The core of Snuffy's playstyle is Jiu-Jitsu, and because of this, Snuffy's already world-class hold-up plays and ball retention skills became even more refined, along with his passing and scoring ability. Core training, biomechanics, close combat, Snuffy incorporated these principles of Jiu-Jitsu and fused them into his football style. This ultimately makes him a more versatile and flexible striker, with Noa even admitting that in terms of overall ability, Snuffy is the best player in the world. The difference between Snuffy's Supreme Physicality is that Snuffy combines 3 techniques to create this ability, being physique, ball keeping, and jujitsu. And the other core weapon that Snuffy possesses is Metavision, also first shown in chapter 222 of the manga. Snuffy was able to block and anticipate Isagi's movements. He is also shown to have the Metavision eye design, asserting that rather than Isagi, he was the one controlling the entire game with his playmaking skills. Now it would be fair to assume that Snuffy has awakened Metavision and is conscious of this ability, the same as Kaiser and Isagi, as opposed to Nico or Aiku, who have yet to fully understand what Metavision actually is. But as of right now, those were all of the weapons in Snuffy's arsenal. Now next up we have the Scion of Real Madrid, Leonardo Luna. And because Luna hasn't played enough to get a full explanation as to his playstyle, we don't actually have an applicable title for his playstyle. Aside from this though, we do have a few weapons to look at that are confirmed. The first is Professional Football Technique, first shown in chapter 92 of the manga. Now this weapon is more of a standard understanding, as he was one of the players handpicked by Ego to represent the World 5 team, considering he is one of the best players for Spain's current national team. The next weapon that he possesses is dribbling, like the others, first shown in chapter 92 of the manga. Luna's dribbling is a key weapon in his arsenal. With his great reflexes and insight, he spots the opponent's weak spots and easily breaks past them. Now this dribbling weapon also has a branched weapon called Hyperspeed Scissors, again shown in chapter 92 of the manga. Luna performs a scissors feint at incredible speeds, making it very hard to follow his movements. Now Luna isn't the only player that we've actually seen perform this technique, as we've seen Bachira perform this move numerous times during the series. Now this last weapon is one that you could debate on, however I am more than confident that it's true. We have Predator Eye, shown in chapter 92 of the manga. Now I know you may not consider what I'm about to explain as Predator Eye, but hear me out. Predator Eye is designated as the complete opposite of Metavision. It's a technique that involves narrowing one's vision on a singular person in order to win a 1v1 situation, but waiting for a moment of hesitation or comfortability, allowing for the user to defeat them. We see Barou do this in the NEL, however I would simply say that this was just an application of this ability. The bottom line is that Predator Eye can be used in a 1v1 situation with any player, simply given the description of its ability. Meaning in this situation where Luna nutmegged Lin, he was using Predator Eye in this exact moment. The only reason that he doesn't have the Predator Eye shape is simply because that this action here was the focal point for Predator Eye's creation later in the series. But as of now, those are all of the weapons in Luna's arsenal. Now next up is the heavy tank himself, Dada Silva. Now like Luna, we haven't seen enough of Silva in order to calculate a player archetype, however we do have some confirmed weapons. The first is Superior Physicality, first shown in chapter 91 of the manga. Dada possesses one of the strongest physiques in the World 5 team, managing to pressure the other BLUELOCK players with ease. With it, he easily dominated Aryu in a jumping contest by pressing away from the ball while hitting it. His second weapon is called High Jumping Power, also first shown in chapter 91 of the manga. Dada has an enormous jumping ability, managing to stop balls in midair with headers. Combined with his superior physique, he easily overcomes Jubei Aryu, one of the best players in Blue Lock whose specialty is jumping, stealing all the balls he tried to stop during the match. Branching off from this weapon, we have two branch skills. The first is called Jumping Header, first shown in chapter 91 of the manga. Dada jumps to catch a ball launched in the air, performing a headbutt to launch it for a teammate to score a goal. We see Dada Silva use this technique to beat out Aryu in a height battle in order to send a pass to Adam Blake. And his other branch skill is called the Raid Dive Header, also branching off from his high jumping power weapon, first shown in chapter 92 of the manga. Dada jumps and steals the ball from another player who tries to catch the ball in the air, delivering a powerful header to send the ball straight into the goal. And with that, those were all of the confirmed weapons and techniques we have in Dada Silva's arsenal. Next up is Adam Blake, also known as the Goal Junkie. Now what is interesting is that we apparently have no definitive weapons for Adam Blake, nor do we have a confirmed player archetype or playstyle. Looking at his performance though, my guess is that he is a physical based weapon, something akin to Chris Prince's perfect physicality, or even a skill such as solid muscle density, as he was able to easily overpower Tokimitsu during the World 5 match. But yeah, unfortunately we have no confirmed weapons or player archetype for Adam Blake as of right now in the story. But next up we have Argentina's most adorable free kicker, Pablo Cavasso. Now Pablo actually does have some weapons that are confirmed, however like the other World 5 members, no player archetype or confirmed playstyle. For his first weapon, however, Pablo possesses professional football technique, first shown in chapter 91 of the manga. Now there isn't a definitive reason as to whether Pablo's weapon is different than Luna's considering they are the exact same weapon, but I'm going to assume that they are either identical or closely relative to each other. The only other weapon that he is confirmed to have is called Vertical Spinning Shot, first shown in chapter 92 of the manga. Cavazos is able to perform a shot that curves in random directions, targeting at random spots at the goal, and this shot can easily fool the goalkeeper due to the random curves of the ball. Now as of now in the story, those were all of the confirmed weapons in Pablo Cavazos' arsenal. Next up we have the God Sprinter himself, Julian Loki. Now unlike the other World 5 members, we actually do have a confirmed player archetype and playstyle for Loki, which is known as the Counter-Attacker. Counter-Attackers are any player that uses their pace to beat defenders and cause unexpected scoring opportunities at any time. Another player who shares this archetype is Chigiri, who, like Loki, is also a speedster. Now the first main weapon in Loki's arsenal is called, you guessed it, professional football technique. You probably thought I was going to say speed, right? Wrong. But yeah, anyways, his first weapon is called Professional Football Technique, first shown in chapter 91 of the manga. Loki is considered one of the best strikers in the world, being handpicked by Ego to play as one of the world's select. Despite only being 17, he is already a rising star and is considered a prodigy in the world of football, having been selected for France's national team already and playing professional level football in the French league. His skill was demonstrated in the World 5 match, where he was able to easily bypass Team Ren's defense, scoring on them with very little effort. His next weapon is also pretty obvious, being explosive speed, first shown in chapter 90 of the manga. Loki's speed is his defining weapon, being able to explosively take off from a neutral position and reach top speed very quickly. This speed is so devastating that Isagi had no chance to react despite Loki being directly in front of him. In addition to this acceleration, he has the endurance to maintain the speed for an extended duration. Since Loki can angle his dribble, he is almost able to dribble as wide as his stride, which combined with his speed makes him an almost unstoppable opponent. His speed is by far the best in Blue Lock, far surpassing that of Chigiri, Shidou, and Zantetsu, as he was able to effortlessly overcome all of Rin's team by himself. Loki also has a branch skill off of this weapon, which is called Second Gear Godspeed, first shown in chapter 91 of the manga. And no, not that second gear. But I do find it funny how they both increase speed after using it. But anyways, when Loki is confronted with someone who can read his direction, he is able to shift into an even higher gear of speed to burst past them before they can stop him, and he used this to completely evade Rin when he was intercepted. But as of right now, those are all of the weapons in Loki's arsenal as of right now in the story. We will most likely see more of him in this match, simply due to PXG currently playing against Bastard München, and with Charles in play, I wouldn't be surprised if Loki comes in just to see how ready Charles is to be his passer. And the last of the professional players that we have seen is Jinpachi Ego. Now Ego was confirmed to be a professional soccer player, someone who even the #1 striker considers to be his rival, meaning he must have a large array and set of weapons in his arsenal, right? No, he doesn't. As of the current chapters, we have absolutely no idea as to what Ego's playstyle, archetype, or weapons could be. However, we can speculate, and I do have a pretty good idea of at least one weapon. Starting off with his playstyle, I believe that he would have the archetype of the Raumdeuter or the Space Investigator. The reason for this is due to Isagi's archetype being the Raumdeuter as well, and Isagi and Ego have shown to have many similarities when relating to soccer. Now, a Raumdeuter's main function is to drift infield and find pockets of space in which to thrive. They are essentially players who locate dangerous areas on the pitch and use the unoccupied space to create confusion amongst the opposing backline. Now, for a weapon that he most likely possessed, I'm more than confident to say that Ego has Metavision, and this is essentially confirmed in chapter 204 of the manga. When Isagi is explaining the concept of Metavision to Noa, he says says that he has heard this concept before, specifically from Ego. And way back in chapter 26 of the manga, Ego explains to Isagi the formula for a goal. And during this explanation, we see this grid-like pattern appear around the pitch, with the gridded avatars and pop-ups of the character appearing in Isagi's vision. This is exactly how metavision is shown later on in the series. Now you could argue that this is simply Isagi envisioning this and subconsciously interpreting metavision. However, I believe that this is Ego confirming that he himself has this ability, simply due to him having to know what this is in order to give this vision an explanation. But again, that's simply my speculation as to Jinpachi Ego's arsenal. It's pretty likely that we will get the reveal of his player archetype and arsenal in the future, but these are, again, just my predictions. But anyways, that was every single currently shown pro player's arsenal in Blue Lock as of right now in the story. Beginning by looking at his playstyle, Shidou's playstyle and player archetype is that of the goal poacher. Goal poachers are forwards who wait in the 6-yard box or the penalty area for a cross, pass, or loose ball and pounce to try and score a goal. The poaching refers to the fact that they will often score a goal out of the slightest opportunities, which can also be described as stealing a goal. Goal poachers usually play as center forwards or as secondary strikers. So you hear that, Shidou fans? Kunigami isn't a goal poacher, Shidou is. What are you gonna say now, huh? Shidou, with his sharp reflex and monster instinct, has an uncanny ability to position himself at a critical point in the penalty box and score goals that most players wouldn't even be able to think of. His self-sufficient playstyle revolves around him positioning himself perfectly towards the goal as he waits for the ball to score goals. Shidou also has tendencies to take shots in midair and can even do so without looking, a testament to his skill as a goal poacher. He is an expert at producing monstrous goals from very inadequate positions. But now that we've assessed his playstyle, let's look at his weapons. His first core weapon is known as Dominant Physicality, first shown in chapter 88 of the manga. Shidou is physically one of the strongest and most dominant players in Blue Lock, with his physical strength alone being able to make Igurli feel like his skull was getting crushed. For a more objective demonstration, Shidou was able to overpower Kunigami, who himself is a very physically imposing player. Shidou was able to leverage his superior physical ability over opponents and break past them in an off-the-ball fight. He does this in a variety of ways, using his body and his opponents to create momentum to break past them, or even jumping over them entirely. An example of this is when he matched up against Reo in the U20 match. The next core weapon in his arsenal is called Extreme Spatial Awareness, first shown in chapter 98 of the manga. Shidou's main weapon is his extreme spatial perception. As opposed to other types of spatial awareness that take into account players' positions and weapons, Shidou's spatial awareness is geared towards the goal at all times. This is the key to his perfect scoring ability within the penalty area, since Shidou is able to see the goal whenever he is in the penalty area, even without physically facing it. In addition to this, when he is in flow, Shidou is able to perceive the location of the goal even outside of the range of the penalty area. His next core weapon is called Reflexivity, first shown in chapter 100 of the manga. Shidou is able to reflexively take into account his position and his opponents to leverage his weapons for an ideal shot. His reflexes and speed grant him the ability to get to any point on the field faster than others could, and his natural ability to use all of his body parts optimally allows for him to perform incredible physical feats that are uncommon even to those at Blue Lock. He has shown this multiple times, but most notably when he scored a goal in the Japan U20 match, instantly reacting to Sai's high-speed pass. It is Shidou's unrivaled instincts that make him such a potent scorer in and around the penalty area, establishing him as one of the most dangerous strikers in Blue Lock. And his final core weapon is called Drive Shot, first shown in chapter 89 of the manga. A drive shot is an accurate and powerful shot that is usually from range, serving as Shidou's main method of scoring. Shidou is able to perform a drive shot from a multitude of positions, whether it is unfavorable or not. He is also able to avoid having to reset his positioning by using his superior physique and immense reflex to make the drive shot happen. And those were all of the core weapons in Shidou's arsenal. However, he does have several branched weapons specifically from his drive shot weapon. His first branch shooting style is called Bicycle Kick Drive Shot, branching off from his drive shot weapon first shown in chapter 89 of the manga. A bicycle kick is an acrobatic strike where a player kicks an airborne ball rearward in midair. Shidou performs this move in his debut match against Kunigami and Reo and scores an effortless goal on Kunigami, breaking down his defense completely. The next branch shooting style is called No Looker Drive Shot, first shown in chapter 96 of the manga. Shidou jumps for the ball while turned away from the goal and instinctively takes a shot without looking, and this shot is so incredibly fast and unpredictable that it makes it hard to react to. His next shooting technique is called Reverse Spinning Drive Shot, first shown in chapter 101 of the manga. When receiving the ball with his back to the goal, Shidou backs into an opponent and uses his physical strength to hold them in place, using their body weight to rotate on the spot and rising into an incredibly quick shooting motion. And his last shooting style, branching off from his drive shot weapon, is called Dragon Drive, first shown in chapter 127 of the manga. While running at top speed, Shidou leaps around an opposing defender and executes a jumping volley while using his signature kick, the drive shot. This shot was powerful and fast enough to score from outside the penalty area with little reaction from the other players on the field. Now Shidou does also have a few evolved skills which have been shown in the manga. His first, which is called Dragon Dive Heading, a combination of reflexivity and dominant physicality, first attempted in chapter 143 of the manga, with it actually being used in chapter 245 of the manga. Shidou runs to a preferred location and attempts to headbutt the ball. Given he is moving at top speed and angled correctly, he acts almost like a bullet as he transfers all of his energy to the ball, allowing for it to fly at incredibly fast speeds. Shidou was able to apply so much power to this headbutt that not even Gagamaru was able to stop it as of chapter 252. Now Shidou also has another weapon which originates from him combining all of his skills and pushing them to their max, also known as Flow State, first shown in chapter 130 of the manga. Flow, as described by Ego, is the total state of immersion or being in the zone. It is the mental state in which a person performing some activity is fully immersed in a feeling of energized focus, full involvement, and enjoyment in the process of the activity. Shidou entered Flow in the middle of the Japan U20 match, being inspired by the passes he received from Sai and being pressured by the BLUELOCK 11 defense. This led to him pushing his physical and perspective abilities to their extremes, allowing for him to score a super goal. Now with this, we also have one flow skill that Shidou can only use when in flow state, that being Big Bang Drive, first shown in chapter 130 of the manga. When he enters flow, Shidou is able to push his spatial awareness past its limit, feeling the location of the goal and performing a long-range bicycle kick which lands directly inside of the goal. And he used this to score directly from a clearance without having to reset his positioning in the U20 match. When it comes to chemical reactions, Shidou doesn't have very many, however we do have 3 confirmed chemical reactions. The first being Sai X Shidou, also known as the Genius and his Demon, first shown in chapter 127 of the manga. Sai's incredible technique and skills allow for him to maximize Shidou's performance by setting passes that push Shidou's abilities to their max. Sai is even able to awaken Shidou's flow state, allowing for Shidou to score impossible goals that are even outside of his possible specs. His next chemical reaction is called the Defensive Double Press, a chemical reaction of Shidou and Aiku, first shown in chapter 145 of the manga. This chemical reaction occurs in a situation where Shidou comes in to assist on defense during a crucial moment of the game. Shidou uses his reflexivity and dominant physicality to overwhelm an opponent, allowing for a good defender such as Aiku to come in at the last minute and win possession. We see them perform this chemical reaction against Rin in the U20 match, which, however, despite their efforts, could not stop Rin from shooting towards the net. And his last chemical reaction is called the Trickster and his Demon, a chemical reaction between Charles and Shidou, first shown in chapter 244 of the manga. Both players play reflexively, allowing for their visions of the best play to overlap, allowing for their abilities to be on par with a Metavision chemical reaction, even with Shidou not possessing Metavision. We see this chemical reaction also be performed in chapter 252, leading Shidou to score the first goal of the PXG match. And that is all of the abilities in Shidou Ryusei's arsenal as of right now in the story. And that was all of the arsenal videos that I have made so far. I don't know how long each video was, but if you're here till the end, then I don't know, tell me your favorite BLUELOCK character or something. But yeah, thank you all for watching, like and subscribe for more content just like this, and I will see you guys in the next video.